and no one's gonna bother him.
So what does Speed do? Like, what's his content? I don't really watch it. What's his content type that makes him so famous?
He IRL streams, like he streams like his life. It's just he's just crazy. Yeah. So people just enjoy
I've seen him
watching.
jump over cars. So I'm like,
that chaotic, like, he kind of scared, like what you described. That's kind of, I feel like he's toned that down.
He's always on.
He's like everything and everything streamer. Basically.
Scare the hose kind of energy.
Is that the category?
Okay, before we move on,
congrats to Kai.
Congrats to all those listed, especially Kai. 'Cause I mean, to make Rolling Stones as #1 as a black person, kind of big.
Kai's making bread.
Yeah,
for him.
I can't imagine. Keith Lee's on that list.
Yeah.
And there's been a bit of, back and forth about Keith Lee. I know he went to DC.
See why.
So the thing is, I will say, and I get it. If you don't, because Keith Lee's image has shifted a little bit, as he started, he was just he kind of had a platform and he was trying to support local businesses, and that was his thing. But I think now the bigger that he's gotten and now he does these tours, people look at him as a food critic, me included, because I don't really know Keith Lee from the beginning.
Do you think he's a good food critic?
No. But to the contrary, he's not a food critic.
Yeah.
Right? He comes
He's
off.
never claimed to
He's
be
never
a
claimed to be a
influencer.
food critic. But also on the other side, you're using food criticism as your platform. So yes, I can understand how it started as I'm just trying to support, smaller businesses that have good food. But now you're also kind of presenting yourself as a food critic. In a way. Mm-hmm. In a way.
And wasn't it kind of the
It might not be
appeal of him?
intentional, but he does what a food critic would do.
Yeah.
And the fact that he would say something negative, I think, was a big appealing part about it. It's like, he's actually honest.
Like,
He'll
he's
actually say
honest.
if the food is trash,
Right.
right?
So
He barely did.
Yeah. So
At least there was a time like that, right?
Nah. He was barely giving bad reviews.
Yeah, he wasn't
He
really.
gave
also-
Kevin Hart's restaurant like a bad review. I remember that being like the thing. Was like, he'll tell you how it is.
Yeah.
Like,
And also, he's getting recommended
Narrative-wise,
places. So odds are, if people are recommending places, the place shouldn't have terrible food. Like, he'll say if stuff is whatever, but for him to bash a place, that is rare because, like...
So he hides behind that, right? And I want to say, first off, I think Keith Lee is doing great things, all right? I don't think he's a good food critic, but that's not what he's planned out to do.
Yeah.
But people put him on a pedestal as that, even though he didn't want to be that. But that process, though, where he's just like, I just ask my followers to give me recommendations, and if they're good, if they're not, too bad. Like, that's a little lazy, yo.
How?
Today we are in Atlanta and we are going with my family to this restaurant.
The point...
I get that he's trying.
so the impressions today.
We got it. We have it. We'll
Today
try it.
we are going to a restaurant in Atlanta with my family. My kids are in the back. I'm not going inside because I'm too famous. My wife is going inside. She said the wait took 20 minutes, so I waited in the car. We came out with, I'm gonna show you guys, fried chicken, lamb chops, collard greens. I'm gonna sit here and rate it 1 through 10.
It's those foods every single time.
It's like, okay.
What were you saying?
I just think he could work on 2 things, right? That was a great impression, man.
Thanks.
That was
I worked on it.
God is amazing.
really good.
God is amazing. You're all beautiful. Thank you.
There's 2 things he could work on, right? So first thing is, sure, his old process is to just ask for recommendations, try things out, and try to help struggling businesses, right? Mm-hmm. But if you're trying to check out the vibe of a city, and at this point, people have you on a pedestal as somebody who judges not only restaurants, but a city scene as well, then I think it's a little bit of your responsibility to do some research too, to find what's good there. If you leave New York City, and say you're underwhelmed with the food scene there,
That's wild.
something's wrong. Something's off about your system. I know it's easy and I know it got you here, but something is inherently wrong with your system.
I
get
agree
it.
with
The
that.
only-
I agree with that because there's no way
It's because
you're
of what
going to
he's
New York
getting.
and you're like, can't find good New York.
Because the issue was that, especially with the New York one, is because like the places that he was getting recommended to, he was eating like salmon, chopped cheeses.
Whose
and
fault
stuff.
was that?
Like the
Whose-
people who recommended it to him.
The restaurant,
reason-
did they ask him to get a salmon chopped cheese?
The people who recommended it to him told him, yo, get this from here.
And he said, yeah, sure, I'll get a
Yeah.
salmon chopped cheese.
The reason why I'll shoot him bail is I think we are talking from a perspective where, especially being from Toronto, and being from Canada, we're very knowledgeable about a lot of things that seem like common sense to other people. We are very multicultural, and we're very, very knowledgeable.
He also has.
We know that New York. When you think of New York, what do you think? Pizza, chopped cheese,
bagels,
certain things, right?
roast beef. Yeah.
We're forgetting that a lot of Americans are in a bubble. Keith Lee's from Detroit. He might not know anything outside of Detroit. So if I'm Keith Lee and I know you two from New York and you tell me to get a salmon chopped cheese, I'm going to get the salmon chopped cheese because I don't know that chopped cheeses are a thing. Mm-hmm. I've never been here before. I don't have a lot of friends from New York. Yeah. So that's not necessarily his fault.
You don't think he could work on it?
He can, but to what degree? Like,
he's just gonna stay
how
like
are you? No, but how are you really gonna?
The bumbling guy from fucking Detroit who just tries two things.
Cause
you don't like Keith Lee.
No, I'm just saying. No, I fuck with I fuck with what he does.
That's hate.
Cause also I think one big thing of his, and it seems like I'm caping for Keith Lee. I'm not. It's just what he said. Mm-hmm. One of his main things is he wants to. The restaurants that he's trying are like, basically like mom and pop shops or like niche restaurants,
and they tend to be. And he has a black audience. They tend to be African American food spots,
low key restaurants, right? Yeah. He said. He's not going to a place that's well known. He's not going to go to the best pizza shop in New York. Of course, they're going to have good pizza there.
Right.
So if he's going somewhere else, like a random spot, and the food isn't good, and people say, yo, you went to New York, you didn't have good food, that kind of makes sense because you're not going to the places that people would tell you to go because everyone's going to tell you to go to the same place.
You guys want to know who's a better version of Keith Lee? Chime Time.
Who's that?
I don't know who that is.
Look up Chime Time. Like a dude with like some black guy.
He's the guy who gave how much money? He gave out like like $5,000 to.
See,
Uber.
he has a good mix of he'll take what people say in the comments, but he's actually gonna check out a city scene.
He's a food critic.
And then check out the right spots that he should be going.
But I get that.
He infuses both, and he does literally every type of cuisine. I'm like, Keith Lee could work towards that. I know he can't eat shellfish, but apart from that, he could add some vegetables to your plate.
He's not a food critic.
Yeah, he's not. He's just.
But don't hide behind that, dog.
He said he's just a guy that likes food.
Oh my god,
he's a food.
That reminds me of rappers. I'm not a rapper.
Yeah. Okay.
And plus, I feel like people were mad at him because like when he'd say negative stuff, and certain places would like go out of business or get really bad reviews and stuff. I don't think that's his fault.
It's not his fault.
You have to be
that's
like
not
real.
His fault.
He's just gonna not say anything negative ever. They're like, oh, you're tearing down black businesses when you speak bad on it. If the food is bad, the food is bad.
No, yeah, and that's also subjective too.
Yeah.
But to me, I see Keith Lee like Keith Lee. I see Keith Lee just like I see you guys. Like if you guys recommend a restaurant, like you guys aren't fucking Anthony Bourdain, I'll be like, okay, it'll probably be good. You know what I mean? But he has so much power that whatever he says is kind of gospel at this point.
Low key.
So it's kind of your responsibility to increase your palate and how you describe things and the places you try.
Do you think he's being irresponsible?
I don't know.
No,
I don't think it's irresponsible.
No,
I think he's not keeping up with the influence that he has, if that makes sense.
But how do you increase your palate if you're going to what's it called? Shop? No, like the if you're going to a food truck from this random guy that got recommended to you that hasn't made his like rent, like hasn't made enough to cover his rent for the last 2 months. He's about to get evicted from his food truck, and it's just some guy that's cooking food on the side of the road. Yeah. You're probably not gonna get a 5-star meal from there. But the food might be booming.
Hole in the wall spots that need help are a dime a dozen. Pretty much all restaurants are struggling. You know the lifespan of a restaurant is like 2-3 years?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is true.
It's true.
You can find hole in the wall
average restaurant doesn't make a profit for the first like 3 to 5 years.
That's true.
You can find hole in the wall restaurants of every type.
So realistically, I think
especially the cities he's reviewing.
The people that he's asking for recommendations should probably be a specific type of person. It should be someone that knows what they're talking about.
Yeah, and then he should also have a team that blends in other recommendations as well.
That's fair.
That's it. I think he's just a very up his game. That's it.
He's a very like lone wolf type of guy. Like he doesn't want to work with teams and all that. And I can see how you're saying
just
that.
Go on Reddit, fam.
I can see how you're saying that could kind of shoot him in the foot.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. Let's roll the dice for 2 more. Actually, let's do